All
I,
right.
I got one shout out. I want to
Put
shout out my roommates, Miles and Kendall Ramsey. I want to shout out Hookmaster Studios. Shout out to Jazz. That's who I'm working on this project with. He's worked with Mac Miller, Raekwon, Bone Thugs, and everybody else in between. So I'm excited about that. And I want to shout out my mama and my daddy. I want to thank you for creating me and you and Jesus. Thank you so much, Mama and Daddy, Clifford and Melanie Jones.
DJs and Entertainment is here with Miss Ava Bella, or I should say Miss Melissa Ramsey, aka Miss Ava Bella. I gotta do a special little segment. My daughter Zaria always asks, Daddy, do you know all these people that you interview? And I said, yeah, there's a connection here. You were married to a guy, an old church mate of mine. And that's how I got to meet you and then got to start checking you out around town. And you were doing quite a few things around town.
I started with music first, and then
Okay.
being around so many poets, and definitely the influence of Yep, who I was married to.
Right.
I was just like, well, let me see if I can write some poetry, not just songs. So
Exactly.
that music was first.
Got you. I got you. So with that, Ava Bella, how did that name come about?
So Ava, um, of course, people know, a lot of people know Ava means beautiful, but it also means sings like a bird.
Okay.
And Bella in Hebrew, it's not actually the way that I spell it, but the Hebrew meaning of the word Bella is follower of the Most High God. And I always wanted there to be less of me
Mm-hmm.
on the stage and standing before people and more of him.
Happy Father's Day. It is Father's Day 2021. We're going to start a special series getting different perspectives on what Father's Day means to you. So stay tuned. It will continue past June, which is Father's Day month. Peace.
I'm gonna be quite honest with you. I have mixed emotions on that. I'll start with what my father means to me and how it built me as a father or as a man. I have to start there first because uh, I was fortunate enough to be able to have a father that was very stern with me, but very um, um, he's stern, but he was also one of those father figures that spent time helping me to understand what respect meant.
A lot of, songs that I was singing was prayers anyway. So I wanted to minimize myself. And I think um, people people was just like, oh, it's just a pretty name. That's a really cool name. But it definitely had a meaning. I feel like the birds get to give their highest praise every day. So, Ava, sing like a bird.
There you
But
go. Very fitting. Your voice definitely matched with that. Now you talked about music. When did music begin for you? When was the exposure? Did you do any instruments or just started singing?
well, if you let my father tell it, he said that when I was born, like when I like first first appearance on the scene,
Okay.
my cry sounded like I was singing. And then when I was um 2 to 5 years old, I used to stand on my parents' glass coffee table, them smoky colored coffee tables that was
That you
wood
wasn't
on the
supposed to stand
sides.
on?
You wasn't supposed to stand on. That was the worst whipping I ever got in my life. Um, but I used to stand on the table and sing and spread out all of the ebonies and the jets because I wanted to perform for Gladys Knight and the Pips and the Temptations and the Tops. I wanted to perform for them. How old am I? I wanted to sing for them because they sung through the TV. So I would do that in the living room. And Then around 13, I would say between 10 and 13, I really started singing at church. 13 years old, I started going to all the churches on Sunday afternoons and women's days, youth days. If one of our assistant pastors from my church was the guest pastor or an interim pastor because somebody's pastor was sick, I would go with that pastor and sing. And I just had a little cassette tape that my mama would make sure was played correctly. And that was like my first tour. And I think 17, I was probably one of the first few vocalists that Don Juan had. And so when Caribou became a thing, I remember it was Caribou on the counter. And of course, I'm not old enough to drink it, but I knew they were making a song about it, and I knew what it was when I saw it. And that was when Roger was working on that song with Tech, and so I got to talk to Roger Troutman. But that was when I first was working in the studio and just around creatives. And there was some time and space in there. I've worked with a lot of people when I lived in New Orleans, and All Star Records in New Orleans, Fireboy Entertainment in New Orleans. And then I sung live down there first, and then I came back home. That was when I was meeting all of the poets and got into Verbal Attack that Glenn North used to put on. And I sung the one song that I knew because I knew I was in the jazz district. So I sung My Funny Valentine every single week. I know people got tired of hearing it, but it was the one jazzy song that I knew. And that was a wonderful time when we learned what a cipher was, and Love Jones was out. And I think people really at that time started finding themselves and finding their voices. So that's kind of the very beginning. But I mean, there was another start after that. I've been knowing Lorante Austin since I was 14 years old. He was friends with my sister. He was a member of the hip hop group in Kansas City, Soul Servers. He worked with a guy by the name of James Christos. They had a label. First it was called Guerrilla Movement, then it was called Anarchy Movement, then it was called Black Vine. Okay. And so I was on that label, and that's kind of where things started happening around 2012. And just started doing shows, and my first show was at Czar Bar downtown. And the next thing you know, we were a thing. It was the three of us putting on shows, doing open mics, bringing our favorite hip hop acts in town. I was fortunate enough to put out my album at that time, the EP Lady Gun, and I started touring with Master Ace. I did shows with a little bit of everybody, like your favorite rapper, and just
pick one.
Meet all these people. Mm-hmm. I went on tour with GLC, Kanye West artist. He's on the song Spaceship from Kanye's first album. And these are people now that are like my friends. Like we have each other's phone numbers. We can chat. It's been really instrumental in just that whole period. It was just super instrumental in developing the business side of what is the music business. It was very important to get that knowledge in that time that provided that knowledge and understanding.
You talked about Lady Gun, your album. What year did that come out?
That was 2013, April 26, 2013, my birthday. Came out on my
Happy
birthday.
birthday. What, 22 years old now? Good.
Yeah, I will go with that. Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Well, you said something very important. You were talking about learning the business side of music. What motivated that? A lot of artists all tend to still fall short on that, even in this 21st century and all the examples that we've seen. What motivated that for you to get into the business side?
What motivated me was just because I knew it was important to have ownership. It was important for me to be able to monetize my art, not just somebody else. Um, it was just it was important. It can't. This cannot be the music industry and walking into it, being a part of it, and actually being successful and it's fruitful. It can't be that if you don't understand that it is the music business. And you're when you're a female and you are on a rap label and you are in any segment of the entertainment industry or the music industry, but even if it's Kansas City, if it's a label in Kansas City, or even if it's a major, you just have to have your business straight. Your feet have to be sure, and you have to be armed with some knowledge, or it's going to be a longer process than it has to be. And I wanted something that would ultimately land me with a brand that would take me beyond. Like if I felt like I wanted to chill for 3 years like I have, it's still a situation where it's mine, so I can go back to it. Now I have a BMI publishing company. I was already a BMI songwriter. Like that, the music that someone streams on any of my websites or any social media, I'm going to get some of that. If I want to license it, I can license it. It's just about having just having not necessarily control, because I feel like art, it does need to be free flowing, but I feel like it's empowering to be able to do that with your art.
True.
So,
Plus, art does cost. So with that, you can't always pass. You got to pass that cost on to the consumer as well. Woman, hip hop, and that situation. You care to kind of tackle maybe some challenges you've run across, maybe advice to other women that may want to come along your path.
oh, um, the biggest thing, and it's so cliche, and we hear it. We hear the horror stories. Every so often we hear a story that landed in a happily ever after. But do not poop where you eat.
Right.
Do not.
Yes.
If your attention is divided, then you aren't able to do what you've been called to do and placed on the planet to do. And everybody can't go. Everybody can't experience your blessing, the runoff of your blessing. Everybody cannot go. So I feel like as women, we need to be focused on what we are contributing to the world, and you can't do that when your attention is divided. So I would just say, just be careful about the people you align yourself with, who you partner with, who you even create with, um, and just really step back and look at relationships and make sure that they make sense, and not just intimate relationships, but professional relationships. It's got to make sense. If you're off doing something that I don't get down with that, I don't agree with that, and your lifestyle ain't right out even outside of it, I don't want to put my brand and first myself. I don't want to align myself with that. So I would just tell them, don't poop where you eat. Just don't divide your attention. You can get so much more accomplished when you just focus on the music.
Yes, very, very much so. That's a universal lesson, not just for women, definitely for men too as well. Along with that, with your experiences, I'm pretty sure you've had some very meaningful and beautiful experiences. You care to share a few of them?
Oh, I would say, you know, I I've had a lot of shenanigans in my couple decades in music, especially in music in Kansas City. I've had my time with shenanigan, but I have, out of those moments, had moments where I had the opportunity to perform on 18th and Vine at the Juke House. The Juke House was huge for me. That was kind of like when everything was just getting started. I had a percussionist, a drummer, three just amazing singers that they weren't background singers. Everybody could sing. Everybody could play lead guitar, bass guitar, a saxophone player, um, keyboards. Like it was like we bought 4-part harmony to the Juke House. It was like church. It was it stuck with people, and I feel like that was just a beautiful moment. But it was really the defining moment because I knew I wanted more of that, and I was like, if I can get people right here to respond, because Kansas City's tough. Okay.
That is true.
Forget about New York. If you could make it in Kansas City, you could make it anywhere. So um, I knew if I could get that type of reaction, and it's just a moment where you see their eyes, like they are with you, like it's a reciprocity. Everybody's exchanging energy, and I wanted to experience that in Chicago, in LA, and Atlanta. I wanted to experience that everywhere. I wanted to connect with people like that everywhere. So that was a huge moment, and I think being on tour with Master Ace, that was so many moments. And just because I used to bump like Born to Roll after school, my sister would be driving my mom's Escort, and that would come on 103. And I'm just like, man, I'm on a tour van with this dude. And we hear it every night and it don't ever get old. So that was a moment. And I think this was everything came from music. You were there at the launch of Sip Local. Um, Everybody told me, like, there were always, not everybody, but there were so many naysayers. It's like, you don't want to do that in Kansas City, or you can't do that in Kansas City. And I just didn't want to listen to those people. I was just like, you can create an experience for our people. They will come, they will drink wine, they will listen to a live jazz trio, they'll be entertained by, Sean Edwards telling a funny joke and just walking around and being himself. Like we got Sean Edwards. Like, we have a bunch of people who are just a plethora of people who are so talented in their own fields and their own genres, disciplines in what they do. And I didn't want people to sleep. And I just wanted them to see that it could be a beautiful night. And it was a beautiful night. So that was just realizing that was happening. And then when I saw you, I was like, oh man, yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't know I brought such a presence, but I'll take that for sure. And I definitely agree. It was a beautiful night. You put on a very nice event. Along with that, well, I mean, it's obvious. Not only do you sing, but you also kind of organize. Talk about that a bit.
So along the journey, when I was realizing that I wanted to create events, I wanted to if there was any way that I could be instrumental, whether it's just talking to another artist in Kansas City, spending time with them getting to ask me questions like, how'd you get a placement, or how'd you get a distribution deal? Well, how did you get on this tour? I wanted to just have a way, if somebody needs a photographer, if somebody needs a graphic designer, whatever you need, if it's to talk, if you need someone that is going to edify you and help you turn down the noise, that's what Asylum Media is. And Asylum is just Melissa spelled backwards. And my little one of my taglines is, we're just crazy creative, because it's all of my friends that I'll be able to call in and be like, hey, somebody needs a beat, somebody is working on their album, and they need a photographer to do some headshots for them. It's just me like putting in calls to my friends, but in an organized way, so that everybody eats and everybody has what they need. Because the one thing that I was beginning to see during my time was there were so many people wearing so many hats. Like, they're shooting their own videos, which there is definitely a time for that, but they're wearing they're booking the show, they're doing every single solitary piece, and there's strength in numbers. And the thing that we so dearly have needed is the infrastructure in the industry. So I just really, I felt like this was a way to be able to like have Sean host, but also be able to pay Sean, bring in the young lady that was the painter that, people become aware of her art, and she's selling art that night. For people to know about all of the wonderful wines and juiceries and coffee shops in the city, like that, you just have to make it. You just have to do it. And people will receive it, but you have to set the intention. So I think that was
for sure. I think you bring up an excellent point, is that you can't wear so many hats. At some point you become the demise of your success, because you're getting your own way and not being able to spread that. Along with that, Asylum Media, what all else what are you doing now? I mean, you're not in the city anymore, evidently.
Well, right now, so I'm actually getting ready to work on new music. We've actually already started, and I just felt like the world needs us. If I thought that I could stop doing music, now is not the time. Even though you may not be able to perform live, people are doing so much from their phones. There's the Clubhouse app, there's the Facebook, the Zoom calls, there's all of these things, and you can get fatigued by that. So there has to be something to break up the monotony, and that thing, and that something is art. Like music, we should be providing, and I think we have a responsibility to creatives. We need to give the people something right now. Because there's just so much going on.
You are correct.
Here.
You are definitely correct. It's definitely forced me into being more creative and carving out the time. This Zoom meeting is interview, I should say, is an example of that. With that too, with your music, how can folks get up with your music now, the stuff that you've created? Where's a contact, a connection for that?
So I still have a Bandcamp, Ava Bella, AVABELLA.bandcamp.com. I also have melissaramseyonline.com. That kind of houses Asylum Media and all of the things that I do for branding and marketing and web design, even the data science for small business, big businesses. And you'll probably see me do some more things like the GoDaddy campaign, where I'm working with larger brands, just sharing my perspective and the tools that I use. That's been really huge during the pandemic, because some of us have had to wear a few hats. So just sharing those tools with people. Um, so yeah, melissaramseyonline.com and avabella.bandcamp.com for music.
Okay, most definitely. Because the voice is definitely bird-like. It's beautiful. I dig it. It was a good visit to see you on YouTube, just because I hadn't heard you in a while. So we got to get some more Ava Bella, some more Melissa Ramsey in our life for sure. With that, that's all I got. I really appreciate you giving up your time. And to DJs and entertainment, you have been officially documented. Yeah, I say all the time is that 50 years from now, people will be able to hear the Ava Bella story from Ava Bella.
Yes.
And so it's with that. So thank you. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe. Right there. Artwork by Warren Styles Harvey. His interview is coming up soon, too. I hope you have enjoyed the interview with Miss Ava Bella and also our special series on what Father's Day means to you. It will continue past June until. Please subscribe. If you want to email me, Vincent Irving, aka DJV at gmail.com. Vincent Irving, IRVING, at gmail.com. I appreciate your support. Please subscribe. Everybody know how computers work, algorithms, things. That's how you let the internet know that you really enjoy the show.